Outside. Right. Can I ask everybody to sit down, please, so we can get started? Thank you.
Is it working?
Yeah.
Seems pretty quiet. Not working. It's not working on there. Testing. Is it? Testing.
Sorry?
Keep talking. Testing. Can you hear now? Yeah, it's coming through.
Right. Can I ask everybody to sit down, please? And we'll make a start. Put my glasses on. Come on. Oh, Carl is
here.
Yeah. All right. Sit down, please. Right, I intend to make a start. Good evening, everyone. Today's meeting is open to the public, and a warm welcome to all in attendance. My name is Councillor Ian Horner. I'm the Deputy Chair of the South East LAC. Just to say, my colleague Gail Smith, who is Chair of the LAC, is not here this evening because it was her husband's 48 years funeral on Friday. So she will be back in public duty soon, but didn't quite feel like she could do this tonight, and I do understand that. Before I ask other councillors to introduce themselves, I will hand over to Democratic Services to read out the housekeeping arrangements.
Thank you, Chair. Please can I request that mobile telephones and other such equipment is switched to silent mode as to not disturb the conduct of the meeting. There is no fire test planned for today. If there is an emergency evacuation, please take instruction from the council staff present. The toilets are outside, down the corridor, and take a left. The meeting today is open to the public and will be streamed live and for subsequent broadcast via the council's website. You should be aware that the council is a data controller under the Data Protection Act. Data collected during this webcast will be retained in accordance with the council's published policy. By entering the meeting room, you are consenting to being filmed. That's all, thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Can I ask the members and officers around the room to introduce themselves? I'll start with the table here.
Good evening. I'm Jane Foles. I'm the South East Local Area Committee's manager.
J. Bell, Democratic Services Officer.
Right, first. Councillor Tony Downing, Labour, Musgrove Wood. Success. Councillor Mick Rooney, Woodhouse Ward, Labour Councillor.
Councillor Matt Dwyer, Burley Ward, Labour.
Councillor Alison Norris, Woodhouse Ward, Labour.
Okay, can I just ask for any apologies for absence?
Yes. Apologies from Councillors Gail Smith, Denise Fox and Anne Woolhouse.
Thank you. There are no items that require the exclusion of the public and press. Do any members wish to declare an interest in any items of the business on the agenda? That's elected members. No. We'll go on to minutes of the previous meeting. For members to approve. Does anyone any questions? Any objections to any part of the minutes? No. Okay, can I take that as the minutes approved? Thank you. I was just going to explain before we go on any further that we try all the time to find better ways to do these meetings. And what we're doing today is we're going to have some short presentations from the services here, and then we're going to break out onto the tables for you to talk about with the questions that you've got on the tables. Because people have said to us in the past that when we've had presentations, it's ended up being death by PowerPoint. So we're trying this time to just let everybody do a short introduction of about themselves, and then circulate around so you can talk to them. You have about half an hour for discussion, and I'll ask each table to report back. And then you'll have the opportunity after that to go and talk to different groups for a while, and then we'll do the formal business. Because the other thing people have said to us is that when we do questions at the beginning, we end up then rushing everything else. So we're trying it this way. We'll see whether it works or not, but we're perfectly happy with whatever feedback people have afterwards, whether this is a better way of doing it or not. But we keep striving to make these meetings more useful for members of the public, and that's what we're trying to do. So it may not be perfect, but we are prepared to try different things. Okay, if I could perhaps start, since we're going to be talking about, particularly about crime and community safety, and so could I start with ask the police to come up and have a quick couple of minutes?
Sorry, do I need to stand? I was just going to shout because I'm quite loud usually anyway, but I'm Katie, I'm the police inspector from South East Neighbourhood team. Some of you may have seen me before, but some might not have. I'm new to South East Neighbourhoods. Well, I say new, I've been here 6 months. I arrived in October, and I've got a team, so my area is quite vast. I've got 3 teams on my area. One, which is the team that's based at Mossway, that covers all the South East areas that's here today. So that's I've brought Lily Richmond with me, who works on that area as a PC. So you might have seen Lily more out and about in community, because she does quite a lot of being out, and she does act up as sergeant as well. So she gets to know all the details inside and out. I've brought with me as well Damon Pass, who obviously, I'll let him introduce himself in a second, and he'll go through some things that he does. But we've brought lots of examples of what the work we've been doing. I've been told I get 3 minutes, so I'm going to be really quick. But if you want to speak to us about some specifics about what we've been doing in each area, we've got lots of printouts and stuff that we can talk about, things we've been doing with the drone that were funded for us, things that we've been doing in relation to speed guns that we've been asked about, and obviously specific issues that you've had in your area. We've done lots over the last 6 months that I've been here, and prior to that, I'm hoping that Lily and Damon can help me before, because I weren't here, obviously. But please come and talk to us. We will tell you what we're doing and what we've got planned in the area, and we'll do that. But this is an introduction to me and our team, so I'll let Damon talk.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I don't like talking into these. I'm Damon Pass. I'm a Safe Neighbourhood Coordinator working for Sheffield City Council, but I spend a lot of my time working alongside the neighbourhood policing team, and I'm embedded into their team at Mossway and other bases of Attercliffe and on the Manor. It's an incredibly busy area, huge area, 8 electoral wards. It's never dull. It's 100 miles an hour. There's lots and lots of activity and things going on. And without going into too much detail, I think my role is kind of the link between the council, the local authority and the policing teams. And I focus mainly around problem solving around criminality, a lot of work around children being drawn into criminal gangs, exploitation, threat, harm and risk, knife crime. So it's incredibly busy. I'm not on the police's payroll. I get paid by the council, so I can speak with some degree of autonomy. And what I would say is that your neighbourhood policing team that you've got, probably aren't enough of them, but they're amazing. They do a brilliant job. They've got an incredibly challenging role. and I know that we probably think that we need more, but I can assure you that the team that I work alongside really do punch the weight, and they do a brilliant job, so you can pay me later. Thank you. I'll pass on to Lila.
The gaffer's kind of introduced me, so I'm Lily Richmond, so I cover PC on the Woodhouse and Westfield team. Predominantly we get allocated areas. My area is Woodhouse, although I like to have my fingers in many pies and I kind of like to know what's going on everywhere. So I am a PC but do cover as sergeant occasionally, so I can kind of relate to both worlds, but I used to work at the Manor, so I've a fair share of work around Sheffield South East, but hopefully any questions that you've got in relation to any of your areas that you live in, I can, me and the gaffer and Damon between us can try and answer any question you've got. Thank you.
Can I ask youth services to say a few words? Are you happy to do that?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Louise Ellison. I'm a Service Manager for Community Youth Services, predominantly Universal Youth Services. So I manage the Universal Youth Work offer across the city. And we've got a full-time youth and community worker in the South East, who many of you may know, called Aaron Daniels. And we've got an amazing team of part-time staff that also work in the area. We work across the 4 wards. So Aaron's been doing a lot of work, and I know he's doing a lot of work with elected members in Woodhouse to develop a youth club at Now Church, which is thriving and going really, really well. There's Scowden's Youth Centre that's going really, really well. I was just saying to Gail, I don't know where she's gone. It's been open a couple of weeks. We had 22 young people in on Tuesday night, which is really good, so it's been really positive. They want a pool table. Comdot Unity goes from strength to strength. There's about 40 young people in there every night, so that's really positive. And Aaron's been working with some organisations in Handsworth and Crystal Peach Church in looking at opening some new provision in those areas, because those are the areas that we've not really got much provision. We do fund Sheffield United to deliver some sessions at Fish Ponds. I think that's the right word for it, Fish Ponds. And he told me to say Sycamore Park and not Rubber Park. Because people would know what I mean by that the youth club is going to be opening near there. Is Crystal Peach Church? Okay, I'm looking at... Yeah, Aaron knows the detail, but unfortunately he couldn't be here tonight. He's going on holiday again. But yeah, that's us, and obviously that's replicated across the city, so we've got full-time youth worker in each area. But if you need anything, please email Aaron. Or email youth.services, and I've got all the information there. So I've got flyers for each youth club, so if you want any more information, just let us know. And we do cry out for volunteers. So if anybody would like to give their time to volunteer in one of our youth provisions, it doesn't have to be in the South East area, it could be anywhere. I've got some volunteering information. Please do come and talk to me about it. We'd love to have you.
Both communities officers to say a quick word. You don't have to come to the front if you don't want to. Just grab the nearest microphone. That'll make life a bit easier. There are microphones on tables, so...
Do press it. Should be on. All right. Hi. Hello, everyone. It's lovely to see you all, and it's nice to be invited back. So my name's Amanda Perrott. I work for Sheffield City Council in the Antisocial Behaviour team. So if we've got 3 minutes, a very quick whistle-stop tour of what the Antisocial Behaviour team is. Oh, I don't know what that was. So we are a tenure-neutral, multi-tenure antisocial behaviour team. So what does that mean? It really means that we're here to try and help anybody. It doesn't matter what your tenure is, whether you're private rent, whether you own your own house, whether you're a council tenant. You know, we're here to try to help anybody. And the powers and tools that we can access to take action against people is for any tenure. So there's 2 parts of our team. The first part is the Sustainable Communities Officers. So you want to stand up quickly. I think you're probably familiar with the team. There's 1 senior, Julie, and then we've got 4 officers. You might not have met Mark. This is Mark's new. So Mark's a new Ruth, for those of you that can, yes, that can remember Ruth. So Mark's been with us for a while, but he used to work in the sort of south-southwest of the city. So we're really pleased to have him sort of come on board. And that we've got a full team again, because like Damon was saying, this is a big area, it's a complex area, there's a lot going on. You know, we've got one senior and 4 officers, that's not a big resource, and we cover the East Lack area as well. So we're glad that we're kind of fully staffed again. As you know, the Sustainable Communities Officers, very visible. Eyes and ears of the community, they're out there, 2 roles really, I suppose, trying to prevent things happening and then trying to find evidence about stuff that we kind of know is going on. They work a shift pattern, 8 a.m. in the morning till 4 o'clock, and then the other shift is 2 until 10. So it's kind of 1 week, one shift, 1 week the other. So you might not always see people, you might not always see people at the same time. That's sort of why. And then the other part of the team is the resolution officers. There's one resolution officer who covers South East and East, and that's Sharon. Some of you might be familiar with Sharon. So Sharon's job is basically sort of to case manage. You know, if we have some urgent cases that might need a legal response, for example, Sharon's the person that will pull that together, get written statements, sort of go to court, etc. So, yeah, you know, we're here, we've got our store. We haven't got much to put on a store, but we've tried to cobble together a few bits and bobs, haven't we? Come and talk to us if you're having any problems, if there's any locations, you know, that's attracting issues. It's not just having an issue with a person. It could be that a place is becoming a bit problematic. Come and talk to us. Let's see if there's anything that we can do. We don't work Saturdays and Sundays, unfortunately. Our role is Monday to Friday, but you know, if there's anything that we can do to help, we will do. So, yeah, thank you. Good question. For the Sustainable Communities Officer, I mean, it's not a scene. I can share a job description. It's quite a lengthy kind of document. But
sorry, can I ask? You have time to go and speak to people after the discussion, so perfectly happy for you to ask those questions afterwards. Okay. Could I ask the Likewise team? Can you pass the mic now, just to introduce themselves?
I'm actually here from Likewise, but I'm in the Substance Use Commission team. So, apologies if you can't understand my accent. I'm aware from north of the border, so if you need me to slow down or repeat anything, I honestly won't be offended. So, like I say, Likewise aren't here tonight. I don't know if it's because the date changed and they've been unable to come, so I will get to the bottom of that. But I'm a commissioner in the substance use team, so part of what we commission is Likewise. So we commission all the drug and alcohol services across Sheffield for young people and for adults. So Likewise is the adult treatment provider in the city, and they, like I say, they provide support to people that are, you know, got issues with drug and alcohol. And they don't just expect people to turn up at Portland House, which is where they're based. They're also doing a lot of outreach in terms of different areas in the city. So they're doing stuff in Pittsmore, they're doing some stuff in Westfield actually just now, and they also help people get into recovery. And so we also commission all the recovery services within the city. So Project 6 do a lot of that for us. And we also commission the Young People Service. So there's the corner, which is in the city centre, and there's the 1625 project. And they support younger people and their families if there's a substance use issue there. They will also come into schools and community groups. So we've had them go to Behaviours in various places. I think they've now been to like 97% of the schools in the city to do drug awareness training with the children there. So that's one of the things we do. We also, if there's like drug alerts that need to come out to the community, that's my team that are responsible for doing that, all that sort of stuff. So I can't answer for Likewise, but if you've got any questions about substance use services in the city, feel free to grab me and I'm happy to have a chat with you.
Thank you. Can I ask the housing team to say a few words?
Hi everyone, I'm Amy. For those that have not met me before, I'm the operations manager based in Crystal Peaks Housing Office, so we manage the housing for the South East area. We have a team of ward team leaders and neighbourhood officers that manage the patches out in the area, so we deal with things from tenancy management issues all the way over to antisocial behaviour, support referrals, and we work with a number of agencies to make sure that customers are getting the support they need to manage their tenancies. We do a lot of work with Matt's team who manage antisocial behaviour. But if you do have any questions or queries regarding housing or any issues that you're facing, come and have a chat.
Just to introduce myself, I'm Danielle Anderson, Ward Team Leader for Woodhouse. I have worked on all the patches in Crystal Peak, so if you've got any questions on the areas, feel free to come and have a chat.
As Amy said, Matt Sutton, I'm Service Manager at Housing for one of our central teams, the Tenancy Enforcement and Sustainment team. So we work with Amy's team and we work with other partners in the room, such as police and ASB team. So where there's tenancy enforcement issues or issues like cookaway, fraud, that type of thing, that's what my team does. So I'm more than happy to speak to anybody about that tonight. Thank you.
Okay, could I ask the domestic abuse team to say a few words?
Hi everyone, my name's Alison Higgins, I work for the council and our team commissions the domestic and sexual abuse services in the city. So I've got various leaflets and information here. So most of them, a bit like the alcohol services and the drug services, are city centre based, but they do outreach across the city. So for example, I know that IDAS, the community-based domestic abuse service, has been doing quite a lot of work with one of the GP centres in Burley. It might be Burley Health Centre. Does that sound right? Yeah. So they do come out to see individual people and also work with community groups. So I've got lots of information here about what the size of the issue is in Sheffield. So just to give you a couple of stats, 85,000 people are estimated to have experienced domestic abuse in Sheffield since the age of 16. 70,000 people are estimated to have experienced sexual assault or sexual abuse since the age of 16. And we have 23,000 children every year that we think are affected by domestic abuse. So it's a really massive issue in Sheffield. It's a massive issue across the country. People will have seen, you know, every day there's a new news article, isn't there? Like yesterday it was the student that was raping loads of people in London. Today it was the outcome of the trial with the crossbow killer. And so it's a massive issue, and so one of the things that the council is doing is signing up to be White Ribbon accredited, and I'm really pleased that the council members reaffirmed our commitment as an organisation to being a White Ribbon organisation last November. And so if anybody wants to make the White Ribbon, you just scan that QR code. It's why I stuck it on the table as opposed to behind the table. And it's about us all standing up and saying we're not going to settle for that kind of behaviour. It's unacceptable, and we want women and girls to be safe in the city. That's not to say that there aren't male victims of abuse. Of course there are, but we know that from our services, the people that come forward for support, it's about 80–90%. It's women and girls. So that's why we've signed up to this campaign. So if anybody wants more information about any of that, come and see me.
Thank you. Could I ask the Mayoral Combined Authority? Yep.
Hi everyone, my name is Katie Denley, so I'm the Engagement and Consultation Officer on Policing and Crime for the South Yorkshire Mayoral Combined Authority. It's a bit of a mouthful. I worked for the Police and Crime Commissioner up to May last year, and I cover the whole of South Yorkshire. And my role is all about getting out and about in communities, speaking to different organisations and finding out, one, what the police are doing in communities, but also how communities are feeling about policing and crime within their area. As I say, I worked for the Police and Crime Commissioner last year, and as a result of the local elections and what have you, the powers transferred over to the Mayor's office. So I now sit within Oliver Coppard's office. So if anyone's got any questions about my role and remit and what I get up to, please come and have a chat. Thank you.
And last but by no means least, I think Julie, somewhere hiding around, is Gillian from Amy.
I'm sorry, I don't need that. Scott, thank you. Yeah, Gillian Fairbrother, Area Highways rep for Amy, and I cover South East Sheffield. Obviously, we're quite small fry compared to the rest of the the experts here tonight, but obviously we do have an impact on crime and community safety. In that if your neighbourhood's clean and tidy, it stays away from the broken window syndrome. And also we cover street lighting. So obviously if you are concerned about street lighting, gangs gathering because there's not enough light in there, then please do get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. And as I said, we're now going to break into groups. But just before we do that, I thought I ought to say myself that I'm a member of the Police and Crime Panel. Sorry? Sorry?
Oh, so sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
I beg your...
Oh, sorry.
Do go on.
There you go. Hi, so I'm Maureen Hannafin. I'm one of the safeguarding licensing managers.
And I'm Julie Haig. I recognise some faces tonight. We job share.
So as licensed safeguarding managers, we work to support business community with their licensing practice. These businesses carry out licensing activities which would include selling alcohol in retail outlets, pubs, nightclubs and events, gambling premises, taxi drivers, tattoo parlours, late night food establishments. Our role is to ensure that there are robust safeguarding measures to adhere to Licensing Act and licensing objective, protection of children from harm. This is done by offering support and guidance, supporting applications and offering training. Alongside this, we promote contextual safeguarding. We work in partnership with the police, public health, trading standards, environmental health, immigration and licensing.
Thanks, Maureen. So everything we do is in partnership with somebody else. So we work a lot with Alison around domestic abuse. We raise awareness with taxi drivers when we're training them. We're talking about how they can make a difference by picking up on when people are at risk if they see suspicious activity. We train people working in pubs, clubs, nightclubs, shops. Everywhere we can get, we're like water, we go and we talk about children. But the thing to remember, because we're hearing about antisocial behaviour a lot tonight, sometimes children are involved in that, not because it's fun to do, but because they've been controlled, coerced, it might be part of gang activity. So what we try to do across the community is ask people to think through a safeguarding lens, to think about what they're seeing and hearing, let us know, and if it's at a location, particularly a licensed location, we will go visit, we'll talk to the people running that business and might not be aware of what's happening, that there's drug dealing or people are meeting up or that there's exploitation in and around. So we'll make them aware, we try and support them. We're trying to support businesses. If that doesn't work, we escalate it a little bit, we'll put them on an action plan. And then if everything else fails and we've no other alternative, that's when we'll escalate it to the licensing subcommittee, who will hear everybody's views, everybody's experiences, and they will make a decision about how we're going to keep our community safe. We're around for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. My apologies for not seeing. I have since cleaned my glasses. I do apologise. As I was saying before, that I am a member of the Police and Crime Panel, as well as being Councillor for Bayton, and the Police and Crime Panel will be considering the Mayor's police plan next Monday. So we are there to try and hold the Mayor to account for decisions about policing in South Yorkshire. So I'm happy to talk to anybody about thoughts they have on that. I just also want to say before we break that across all the parties on the LAC, we agreed to buy the police a drone. I believe that's been a great success. And I'm trying quite hard. We are trying quite hard to buy them another one. But the Civil Aviation Authority is the problem at the moment, because they insist on various regulations, because we believe that drones are a really powerful thing. And the one we've provided has been successful, and we'd like to do more. Thank you. So we can now break into discussions in your groups. Thank you.
Just before we start, there will be a facilitator on each table. There are some questions as a bit of a guideline to start. That doesn't mean you have to stick to those solely. If I could ask services that are around the room if you could join a table, please, if there's room there.
We were going to have a discussion for around about 30 minutes and then quick brief feedback from each table after that. Okay, thank you.
And what factors contribute to your sense of safety and what concerns make you feel less secure. So we had a discussion about feeling relatively safe in our areas, but it depends upon that location. Definitely depends on the time of the day or night. And a really interesting discussion around preconceptions of an area and rumours about what it might be like to live in that area. When in reality that isn't the case. And communities have changed over time, putting people with similar issues in the same place, so housing has not really helped this. Question 2, just to summarise on biggest concerns about crime and antisocial behaviour. Drug dealing, big one at the minute is car theft. That's from the car and theft of the car in areas. The recent arson spate in Bayton was a big one. Off-road bikes and fly tipping. And question 3, what improvements would make you feel safer? So this was an interesting one. More information around the prosecution rate for crimes in the area. We need to shout about this to improve confidence within communities. We also discussed the clear hole build, and that seems to have had a positive effect, and especially the increase in police officers on the streets and engaging with communities. We also discussed more youth activities across the area and more police presence at these activities so officers can engage with younger people. We also discussed improving street lighting in generals and car parks, specifically the village square, the cenotaph and Badger Estate. Lots of lights don't work around there. And we just touched very briefly on question 4 around local community services and if they've made you feel safer. And the consensus was that the more that goes on in the area, the safer you feel. And that the welcoming places have been really positive and they've helped to build community connections.
Thank you. To the next table.
So we've had a really good discussion as well on here, very similar to what was from the table that just reported back. We were saying on our table that people felt less safe in their homes, and there was lots of issues around drugs and drugs being dealt with, people taking drugs, etc. Excuse me. We also felt that, I don't like using this term, but problem families moving into neighbourhoods and causing issues. Whether it's high level or low level ASB. We linked it to the lettings policy and we felt that there were suggestions that this had changed dramatically once the lettings policy had changed. An example that was given around there was on 1-bedroom flats that would previously been age banded. For those that don't know what that is, it's 40 plus and 60 plus or general needs. It was felt that realistically once that age banding had been discarded, there was a number of vulnerable people that was rehoused in those properties that perhaps didn't have the support that was needed. And then there was issues raised around subletting. We did say we had a good discussion around what support could be provided, but sometimes the people that needed the support, there was a lack of engagement with the provision. We talked a lot about Likewise. Obviously, they do deliver support in the community. There was examples of them delivering it at GP surgeries, food banks, etc. But like everywhere else, they're resource tight at the minute. The positives, what people said did make them feel safe, was visible presence, uniform presence, whether that's police, PCSOs or SCOs. It was felt that the SCOs in particular at times had good links with youths. They managed to gain confidence, and that was probably because they didn't have any statutory powers, and once youths understood that, they engaged more. There was a concern about actually the number of kids that were out on the street and why they were out on the street. Was it not safe for them to go home? So were the relevant referral routes made? We looked at question 2, and the comments that came back for that were very similar again. Parking on pavements, which caused issues for access, people in mobility scooters, people with pushchairs, etc. Of lack of respect for the area, so people were parking on grass verges, the fact that we're churning it up. Bring back the Park Safe scheme. Kate is going to go under the table now. Again, there was theft of and to vehicles. Off-road bikes were raised as a major concern, and unlit bikes are in and around the area. Question 3, what improvements? Again, it was linked to what your colleagues have mentioned over there. Street lighting, it needs to be in the correct places, and where it is sited in the right places, it's not always lit effectively. We felt that more uniformed presence, feet on the ground, would be a real positive. There was a mention of knee-high barriers to perhaps stop some off-road biking. And we talked about youth provision, free to attend youth provision, but not necessarily your stereotypical youth clubs. Because what we're saying is that the right thing that kids today want to engage with? And then question 4, we talked, that's the Royal League beside Nip to the Loo at this point. Sport activities for kids, they want more SU kicks and SW kicks, or Chef United, Chef Wednesday kicks, needs to be free, and provide food banks. Do you want to?
Yeah, sorry, I took the notes on this, so it probably don't make much sense. Yeah, it was about finding all sorts of recreational activities for kids, and Sheffield United Kicks was an example of where it's free and they get food parcels, I should have written, or they get food. Half projects are good where they exist, and talked about youth clubs needing gaming consoles because kids don't want to come unless there's that kind of activity. But also some places haven't got big enough spaces, so you might want a pool table but you can't fit it into the space. But also we talked about the kids need a range of activities. Boxing's great for some, but not all of them. Some clubs offer chess or Warhammer or crafts, so you need a range of stuff for the kids.
Thank you.
Next table, back.
Hi, so again also had a really good in-depth discussion on this table, specifically looking at Burley Ward and Woodhouse on this table. I'll combine the first and second question a little bit because they both cross over. So in Burley Ward, there was an interest in looking at the speeding along the main road in Charnock, because obviously there's a school and a nursery. They were pleased that there was a speed change to 20 miles per hour, but no one pays attention to it, so people are still pelting up and down that road. There's also a lot of problems with antisocial parking, with people blocking you in, especially near the shops there, and then people getting angry with each other about it. And also, because of the tram stop there without a park and ride, there's a lot of people that use the tram stop but then use the area like a park and ride because there isn't one. And then in Woodhouse, we were speaking about the issues with drugs and alcohol in the centre, in the marketplace, especially around the shop area and the closed down restaurant that's cornered off. There's worry about individuals from the hostels nearby walking up to this area to drink, and they're scaring people in the local area, and they feel there's not enough police in the area, and lots of shops are shutting down in the area as well. And shops are selling alcohol to individuals that are already under the influence, which probably needs to be looked into. And then we spoke about, within Woodhouse again, how there's individuals undertaking shoplifting, but then trying to sell the items that they're shoplifting immediately to community members within the area. One example was someone going into a nail bar and trying to sell butter to community members that were having their nails done in the nail bar. The owner of the nail bar did ask them to leave, but it's just an example of what's being undertaken in the area. we spoke about, is there more that St Anne's, for example, could do with, for example, like a 3 strikes and you're out scenario that other hostels do it, because in hostels where they are meant to be detoxing, obviously if there's a lot of drinking going on, that detoxing element potentially isn't happening. So is there a conversation that could be had with St Anne's? There's a suggestion as well from the police that they could check the CCTV in the local areas to see who are the individuals that are shoplifting, but then also then trying to resell the items. There's also in Charnock a big issue with noise from cars, with music blowing out the windows, but also with them speeding up and down. And then in the lighter evenings in Westfield, there's been a note of more congregations of people in the area, more problems with motorbikes again, drug dealing and violence also on the rise in the areas. There's also an example at the weekend of a lot of blood on the street that hasn't been cleared up, and it was near to the family hub. And so obviously if people were trying to access the family hub, having to walk through and or around the blood was an issue, so there's questions about that. Some of the things that would help solve these, so question 3, hopefully we'll support these, would be getting people / the whole area to take more care of the area. It said, yes, more CCTV would be useful, but there is something about community pride in the area that would help support these changes. We discussed as well how the new street lighting does seem less bright, but not overly sure, as a lot of people don't go out on the street at night because they don't feel safe to. Suggested that in Charnock speed bumps or speed signs to flash up people's speed might help the situation, but we also discussed the price and cost of these. And we also suggested maybe putting a lot of speed signs up saying that there are hidden cameras. And then it was suggested, and if you can explain this a bit more, community speed watch, which, if you give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, so the police have a scheme that's a community speed watch, so it's running really well in a lot of areas. Some areas are a lot more established than others, but basically it's reliant on small groups within communities to undertake speed watch. So it's a case of going through some training, and members of the public who are caught over the limit then do receive a letter. Policing colleagues might have more to add, but it is a scheme ran through the what's it called, the Safety Camera Partnership. So yeah, like I said, training is provided, but it is working really well in some areas, and there's that bit of sort of like community ownership on those schemes as well. So I've got some leaflets. I haven't got them with me tonight, but I can get some of those out to you and get them circulated if that would be useful.
Thank you. And then for question 4, we were saying about some of the positive things in the area that have made differences. Where we were talking about youth services and youth clubs. These are positive, and more of these because they make a huge difference, especially, for example, in the Westfield area. They've really helped with antisocial behaviour and low-level crime. Seeing food banks, though it's sad, obviously, that community members have to use food banks in this situation, in this day and age, it is good to have those in each area, so that's really positive. Another scheme that we were saying that was very positive that's happening in the local areas is a safe space to sleep for babies, and also breakfast clubs for young people at schools. And then there was an example of how police and local businesses could work in partnership, potentially in these areas. So in the city centre, it was shared that there is something called Safe Square, which is sponsored by local businesses, and they have a tent up at Barker's Pool Friday and Saturdays, and it's to show the partnership between police and local businesses in the areas. So, that was our table.
Next table.
Right, we had that's loud. Or was it my big gob? We had a very frank, open and honest discussion on this table. We went on question number 1. We went for some time, so we had a good chat about that. It was commented by gentlemen on the table that they felt safe in Woodhouse, but a feeling that you're not invincible to crime wherever you are throughout the South East area. You've always got to have your wits about you and make sure that you know what's about, and you know the audience, you know the people that's out there. People were talking about frightened of the consequence of reporting crime, which is and how that might reflect on themselves, really. So just something to be aware of. We need to make reporting easier than how we're reporting it at the moment. I mean, we discuss such things as having WhatsApp groups, etc. So it's how we can break down those barriers of reporting really of crime. We touched on social media a little bit about people venting on social media, and how it can be a double-edged sword. It could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, depending on the situation. We touched upon that there was no consequence of crime. We didn't think there were tough enough sentences in regards to certain crimes, and that's something that we need to look at. A more coordinated approach to reporting, so if it's reported through to one person, then maybe that needs to be disseminated to others in regards to whatever the issue is. There was a good discussion about how the police need to be properly resourced, and also we touched upon the fact that sometimes the police, when the police acted, the CPS has let them down in regards to prosecutions, etc. We talked about the lack of infrastructure throughout the area, and an increase in population making crime harder, because there's more people about. We talked about the police being a bit, if the police could be more proactive and update on social media, that would be quite good, and people could see what they're doing in the area, so that was encouraged if the police could do that. Moving on to the second one, in regards to crimes and what the biggest concerns are, we touched upon car theft or vehicle theft, burglary, shoplifting, which seems to have increased at the moment. We talked about litter and how it was a case of improving or changing culture amongst young people, really, in regards to littering. We talked about and adults, and we talked about such things as drive-throughs, McDonald's, etc., and putting registrations on packaging and that, so to see whether that could have a positive effect. And then we sort of went to number 3, and we looked at any initiatives that could help crime. We touched on a couple of points, more CCTV. We also talked about pop-up police stations and being out and about in the evening time as well, which we thought that would be useful. So that's about as far as we got. Thank you.
Now the final table.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so on this table, for question 1, one of the big obvious things of last week were the arson attacks on properties in the Bacon area, and the big worry was that although we saw on social media that someone had been taken in, this person's been released on bail, and we don't know what's happening. So it's a big worry that this person might still be around, whether he is or not. Nobody knows, but it's very worrying for everybody else living in the area. Everyone's putting the bins away at night, nobody's leaving anything out because they're all worried that something's coming back. Nobody feels safe walking about at night, walking to the tram or the bus. Everywhere seems quite lonely and dark, and the idea that people are going to be doing away with cars and starting walking or riding seems to be far away. Everyone's stuck in a car because it feels the safest place to be. We've got lots of problems with scooters, e-bikes, off-road bikes, more in the summer than the winter. And although we know the drone is doing a lot of good work on that, it's still not good. E-bikes seem to just go around you wherever you are and don't seem to have any care for anybody. And people are actually riding them who've not got much road sense, I don't think. Definitely no thought for anybody else. One of the biggest concerns on question 2 was car theft and drugs. cross-border organisations, because in parts of Mosborough we're quite close to Derbyshire, and it's quite easy for people to get over the border and out of the way. Fires on parks, lots of...
It's the rubber park, sorry, that's me.
Oh, the rubber park, is it? I don't even know what the rubber park is.
No, it's where we live.
Oh.
It's Rolling Acres.
Rolling Acres, right. Fires on Rolling Acres, and nobody knows who's starting them. Lots of open drug dealing, and it's becoming the norm. I know near me I've reported at least one car that obviously keeps turning up to do something in the car park nearby. And housing developments, not providing enough parking space. People are parking on roads and all on corners, bad parking, because houses are built without sufficient parking spaces. And then I think probably on some of the older estates, when they were built, nobody thought about cars anyway. No. And you end up with a great big difficulties, because some houses will have 3 or 4 cars, and there's nowhere for anyone to go. And also there's disregard, disrespect for everybody and everything. Don't think anything's been taught at school, and nothing's being handed down regards in respect for other people and other people's property. Right, so what we think we could do with our more police patrols, day and night. We would like a bit more understanding of why police, or what police are doing when we send in reports. And I think probably the idea of putting it on social media, which was from one of the other tables, would help a lot. So everybody knows what's happening. Things are reported and then that's it. Disappears into the ether and we don't know what's happening. We want some hard-hitting schemes with repercussion, ex-offenders and consequences. Youngsters need to know what's going to happen if they do offend or could happen. And I think someone was talking about a really good scheme where you could go and take the children and show them what a cell actually looks like. Might put them off a little bit. And we want more use of parent advice letters, antisocial behaviour contacts, so that perhaps a bit of parenting can go ahead and teach children how to behave properly, a bit more respect. Oh, right. What makes us feel better? Tidy places, flowers in the park make us feel safer because the environment looks cared for and looked after. That's that.
Thank you. As I indicated earlier, we're now going to spend about 10 minutes or so where you can all have a chat with the various services. So I'll just ask those people to get back to their trenches, as it were. And for anyone who wants to take a comfort break, if you don't know, if you need to go to the toilet, turn left, and it's just up the way.
I sat on my coat because my bum was so sore on that.
Oh, that's the Karen.
It's Karen. Can you...
Okay, as I've got a growing number of public questions, so we'll take public questions first, and I'll deal with the ones that we've had written questions for, he says. Trying to find them all. Good. So we've had some questions from David Cronshaw. Starting with the Newstead development, you've asked various questions about security, when security will be finished, etc. What the makeup of the development will comprise of, etc. I've spoken to the local councillors, and you will get a written answer on those questions, unless any of them wants to add anything at the minute. Thank you. There's also asked some questions on the environmental stewardship scheme and the community development worker, which Jane will answer.
So the first question was around the environmental stewardship scheme and the £45,000 from the local area committee's budget towards this scheme. You are asking, can you confirm when the stewardship will commence and how the young ones will apply, and will there be a fair share of applicants from each ward? So just very briefly, the scheme actually started, I think it was June, July last year. So the funding is for the next financial year. So it's the people that attend on this environmental stewardship scheme are what we call NEET kids, not in employment, education or training. So they come through, there's a service within the council that deals with children that aren't in employment, education or training. Everybody that is on that specific list are asked if they want to be part of the scheme, if they want to go on it. We are also, we work with the community development workers as well and local community groups, if they are aware of anyone, because we're quite conscious that the work that they undertake is perhaps not to everybody's liking or taste. So the aim of the course, sorry, of the stewardship scheme is to give young people the opportunity to learn a skill, to get some work experience in a work environment. They get some mentoring from an AME supervisor, and I suppose it's just to give them life skills as well. They also get educational training as well, so they do their maths and English. They do undertake a 12-week block. The aim is to hopefully try and get them ready for either a traineeship or an apprenticeship. In the north-east side of the city, which started the scheme earlier than we did, there has been one youngster that's actually gone on to an apprenticeship with AME. So that's the aim. I don't want to make it all singing and all dancing and all that. It's not for everybody. So although we have had a number of youngsters on the scheme, sustaining them there has at times proved an issue, but we've been working with the supervisors and the service within the council. I'm supposed to try and make sure that the work that they are learning and the skills that they are learning is appropriate to them and something that they want to do. Is that okay? There will be a complete, it'll probably be in June's meeting because we'll have been going for about a year then, so we'll give examples. But just very briefly, some of the work that they've been involved in was clearance of the dyke area at Westfield, clearance of the garage site at Rainbow Crescent, clearance of overgrown shrubbery at Badger, hedge removal at Thorpe Drive, the Burley Spa Lane shop area. They've worked on the community garden at Bayton and hedge and shrub removal from Woodhouse Lane. So we try and get youngsters from within the South East area as much as we can. Okay, thank you. And then the next question from Dave was also, can you confirm when the community development worker will start, where they will be located and how much time they will spend in each ward? So again, the community development workers are already in place. We've just funded them from an extra year. So they work across all 4 wards. So they work from a base within Woodhouse and a base at Westfield and also a base at Bayton. And they spend quite a lot of time at S12 Pantry, I believe, as well. I'm just looking for Jane. So some of the work that they've currently been involved in is they've developed and delivered food works at Westfield Community Centre, for any of you that work, that have been in and around there. They've supported the S12 Pantry and Food Bank with funding bids. They support and have helped deliver the healthy walkie sessions throughout the South East area. They've supported lots of local community groups throughout the area with attendance in their groups and funding bids. For those of you that are involved in community development work, and I don't want to speak for Caroline and Jan, it's so difficult at times to do it. It's not a quick fix, so it's building that capacity, it's working with local communities, it's getting the confidence and the support there. And they've also helped deliver the People Keeping Well network throughout the South East and done an awful lot of work in bringing in relevant services where needed, so i.e. the drug and alcohol misuse service and the mental health support. So we'll continue to build on that. We work with a lot of the local community groups and the relevant forums to look at what's needed and how we can help support and deliver that. So any ideas and suggestions that you've got, Caroline and Jan are sat on this table here. Please come and have a word with them. Is that okay? Thank you.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions about the drone and speed gun purchases. I can't provide you with direct statistics. I can tell you, and I'd be happy if the police want to add anything to what I've got to say, that just after it was purchased, it helped in what we might term a drugs bust, because I don't know if you know, but it's relatively easy for people who grow cannabis and other products to disguise the smell. It is not easy to disguise the heat that comes off. And the drone, I believe on that occasion, was toddling along doing whatever it was doing, and it spotted a heat source. So it's that kind of thing that it can do. It's also very, very useful, because we've talked about it already, about all these speeding bikes and all the rest. The police have a problem in chasing speeding bikes, not just because, you know, they can cut off into an alleyway and a police car can't follow them, but actually the police have to be very careful because of the risk to other members of the public if they end up in a high-speed pursuit. The advantage of a drone is it can follow. It's also the case, because we had a demonstration of a drone, I'm sure Councillor Rooney was there with me, one of us will agree. When it went up in the air, we went, where is it? Because it's very hard to spot, and certainly if you're on a bike doing something you shouldn't be doing, you won't even hear it either because of the din the bike makes. So that's the big advantage of it. The reason we were keen to try and buy another drone is because we're told the advanced versions can automatically track people. They don't need the operator. Civil Aviation Authority isn't happy about that. It doesn't like drones where the operator doesn't have sight of them, because obviously they are concerned about, you know, the risk to other to aircraft and so on. So it's currently in a bit of limbo, but we believe it's been a success, and you know, it's an evolving technology, as indeed anybody who's followed the war in Ukraine will know. Drone technology is moving apace, and I'm particularly keen, and I know the rest of the councillors on the South East are keen that we keep up with that technology, because if we don't, the criminals will. So, you know, I'm absolutely clear that we've had benefits out of this, and we will continue to do so. I don't know if there's anything police want to add. There was a second part to the question about the speed guns that we bought. I don't know if there's anything you want to say about that. Thank you. There's one thing I was just going to mention, because I noticed from the responses, but I'm assuming Jane will have all the responses so we can write up from the discussion, so we can write it all up. People have talked a lot about bikes, for instance, and also about, I think there's something about reporting. I say this at every meeting, I'll carry on saying it. Please report crimes when you see them, even if you don't like the response you get, because for people like me who are on the police and crime panel, for instance, if I have to say to the mayor or the chief constable, why can we not have some more officers in the South East? They're going to look at the crime statistics. So when you report a crime, even if you don't get a response, it is noted as an incident, and it is on that basis that senior officers make decisions about resources. So however well you think the system works, please do report crimes, because it will give us the opportunity to say, look, we're getting all these reports in the South East, please can we have more resources? And so I make that plea to everybody. I'll now move on to some other questions and I'll open to people. Yeah, I've got one from online, which is about antisocial behaviour, fly tipping in Althorpe. A general problem not unique to Althorpe, and I'm very well aware of that. Some people seem to think that the woodlands in the southeast are the local tip. I mean, I wouldn't mind, but I find the tip on what's called bait and tip, even though it's in the boundaries of Woodhouse, very helpful and very useful, and I use it. Compared to some council tips I found in other parts of the country in the past. Why people think that the woodlands and various areas are the right place to dump things, I have no idea. But what I can say to the questioner is that my colleagues and I in Bayton will look into this further. I agree with you, and we'll talk to relevant services about getting yet more clean up. And by the way, let me also salute all those people. I spent a lot of time, for instance, with the Hackenthorpe litter pickers in the past. Those people who run litter picking groups do a magnificent job. And I just wish that, you know, as I say, people wouldn't treat the floor anywhere as a bin. I think I'll open it to the floor now. Has anybody got any questions they want to ask?
Thank you. Matt Smith. So, first of all, I'm a big believer in discipline and the fact that we're sat here in a school today and all these problems generally do come up from the bottom. So, whether it's discipline issues in schools or at home or whatever, all the crime and antisocial behaviour that we see in society does come up from the bottom on the most part. So, I think definitely in terms of even things like uniform in schools that don't have uniform, there's no that level of discipline and respect of teachers and things, that just gets taken away slowly but surely. And then when these kids go out into the society, it's already been degraded. But I'd just like to quickly ask, one, how many times lots of these issues have been raised before, and how many organisations we need and for there to be for these kind of concerns to be raised, because obviously we had 8 or 9 organisations introduce themselves at the start, and I'm fully behind you and I support everything you do, but I also feel for everyone who's trying to keep us safe, because the boundaries and all the borders and all the differences between one organisation and the other, whether it's the police or those looking after safeguarding or antisocial behaviour, there are so many organisations with so many different conflicting aims and objectives that the members of the public who have got these problems, we don't understand what each one does. So we might report it to one organisation and then all of a sudden that's not under their remit, and it just gets lost in between them and those that actually have the power or the knowledge or the intelligence to go and actually solve those problems. So I think it's the same in a lot of different areas, definitely in healthcare, but trying to streamline the process between different bodies and different organisations which are there for us is surely a good thing. And yeah, just in terms of making that process easier and making things a little bit more simple so that those that actually want to report crime know exactly what exactly who they need to go to. And the gentleman over there that raised the question about the job description, that's not a question that should be asked. It should be absolutely plain and simple who I need to go to if there's shoplifting, if there's antisocial behaviour, if there's so many organisations which have so many similar names that can be interpreted as being all doing the same thing to someone who's not looked it up, where if they have a problem, they need to go and they need to know there and then, immediately, who covers that. And I think the return of community policing and things like having a local officer who everybody knows personally that is kind of goes around to purposely build relationships with families, which I know ladies over there for sure seem to be trying to do. I think that sort of approach is what's needed to break down those barriers. But yeah, I guess the question really is there any effort going in to try and streamline the process and make those contacts a lot easier for people to not just contact but understand who to contact in the first place? So that's what
Thank you.
Who's the best person to deal with you? Maybe that's kind of what all these services need, is like a triage telephone number where you phone it, whatever your problem, and then they go, right, we'll get these people to contact you. Because that seems quite a simple answer to me.
In answer to those questions, is that on the same subject or a different one?
Yeah, the reporting of where do you report it, who do you report it to. So, you know, obviously, if you've got any problem, rather than trying to find your way through, like he's just saying, a forest of people, surely one number where you can be triaged to the right service, whether it be for the protection, you know, or kids or adults or women or, you know, whatever the problem is, antisocial behaviour, you know, problems in schools, reporting people, maybe one person or not one person as per se, but one telephone number where the whole situation can be triaged and sent directly to the right service.
Thank you for those questions. I'll just say an answer, very quickly an answer. I see my colleague wants to ask it. I was just going to say in answer to the questions that something I have been pursuing on the police and crime panel, all the authorities in South Yorkshire on large numbers of buildings, including the police, many of which are not being used properly. I'm really determined to try to persuade people. I spoke to the Mayor about it, and I've brought this back to colleagues before, that we need to bring council services, the police, etc., into multi-use buildings, which I think would deal with some of the problems that you're talking about, that people could go to a building and know. Because the problem we're having, obviously, with the resources is that, you know, the police don't have the resources at the moment to staff lots of front desks. It's also true that, like banks, you know, back in the day, if you got stopped by the police, you had to take your documents to a police station. People don't do that now. So the nature of the use has changed. But I'm really determined that we should get multi-use buildings, and I've been pursuing that with the Mayor, and I will continue to do so. And I have the support across parties for that. I was also going to say, on your first question about discipline. Well, I suppose I better not answer that question, since I went into the Royal Air Force at 16 and a half, and I still find it, apparently I do still walk along swinging my arms. I don't put my hands in my pocket. I cannot walk, if I go to an airfield, I can't walk on the grass. So some things stay with you for life. But what I would say is, you know, sometimes we say all sorts of institutions should be dealing with everybody's problem. I am fed up when I go to a supermarket of coming across parents with little children who are effing and blinding to each other. And I don't know what message that sends to their children. And I'm not sure how everybody else solves that problem.
No, I absolutely agree with that last point. I just wanted to say that you mentioned about resourcing and things like that, but how often do calls get answered by all of these organisations? Then it doesn't match their remit. They can't do they can't solve the problem themselves, and then they have to put the phone down, and that, whether it's 30 seconds or 5 minutes or whatever, it's wasted time. A number like was suggested over there, or that one that sounds like doesn't exactly flow off the tongue. Something should be posted, that number should be on posters all around the city so that people can contact this number if it's a Sheffield specific one, and then get straight away sent to the right person who knows who to contact. I think that'd be really good.
Just to come back to your question there, so the number that Councillor Rooney referred to, it's the council's main call centre number. It should be published. I'm looking around to colleagues here, on virtually every document that we send out. When people phone through, as Councillor Rooney said, there are a number of options, and that call is triaged to try and get it through to the right service, the right department. I'm not saying that always happens, because sometimes from the initial conversation, obviously it gets filtered through incorrectly. But they get loads, thousands of calls a day. I think from what you've said here, certainly from the southeast, we could possibly looking at pulling some sort of, I don't know, map or page together, which just shows basically if you've got this issue, this is who you contact. Each service will have got that anyway, but we'll look to see for the southeast if there's something that we can pull together and share, which might help a little bit. But the number that Councillor Rooney referred to is the main call centre contact number.
Microphone.
Yeah, could I just say something there? Basically, what we're trying to emphasise here is that it's a simple one touch point, and then you don't have to worry about how it gets to the right place. So the person out on the street who's suffering the issue they don't have all these phone numbers to remember. So Fix My Street, which some of the guys on one of the other meetings told me, it seems to be a really good thing. I seem to be getting messages back from that system. So that is a way that Matt's asking about, which would work because it disseminates information by somebody who coordinates it all to the right people, and they seem to respond. So I think that the one-touch system Fix My Street, it's an app, for those of you what don't know, that seems to be something like what we're after. But all these multiple numbers for Sheffield, that ain't getting to the crux of the matter. Because when you're under pressure and in that crisis situation, you ain't going to remember all these phone numbers. That's what we're trying to say. Okay, what if they haven't got a phone? No, but you know, you're saying well, then you'd have to go to somebody else. But what we're saying, Mick, is this, that the current system and that switchboard at Sheffield City Council is not good. It doesn't work efficiently. Because under each one of those 10 options, there are also multi-options of the service you want. It's not streamlined enough.
I just thought I'd quickly add in as well, just for a bit of extra support, but I do understand what you're saying. There's also the Sheffield Directory, which can be used, which is an online service, which does have all of Sheffield's support, plus also extra activities from young people, adults, cost of living services, the services we've got here today, and the phone number that Mick's talking about is on the front page of that. But it is a directory of all these services, and it's got a very easy-to-use search bar in it, and it's also, you can look at by either topic and or postcode, so it is quite functional to use, just as extra information to help support. Oh, and it converts in different languages.
Do you have any other questions? Okay, thank you for that. And as we said before, please do get in contact. I'm going to get this screen moved at some point so that as you walk out, you can see the contact details for for my colleagues. If there's any other issues you want to raise with us, that'll be fine. Right, we'll move on to the last little formal part of the business, which is the financial report.
Thank you. So the report members have received is for information. It's an update report of the last spend from the meeting that we had, I think it was in December. So it's just for information, and it just records that we spent £3,000 on crime and community safety theme, and that was around crime prevention material for the South East area, which included 24-hour light timers, dust storm plug-in LED night light minder, TV simulator, window alarms, which pick up on vibrations when a break-in's attempted. We spent £3,000 on community events, and examples of those were around the Health and Wellbeing public meeting event in December, the Woodhouse Family Fun Day in August, the Environmental Volunteering Celebration, I think on the 24th and 25th of April. And then we spent up to £11,000 on local environmental projects, and that includes environmental projects with local junior schools linking with the Shirebrook Valley project. It included money allocated to the Althorpe Green Corridor, the S13 Keep It Clean litter pickers received funding, and Freshville Community Centre received funding for environmental improvements, Halfway Infant School for their environmental project, and then Friends of Welling Court received funding for bench planters and bulbs. So that brings the total spend for this financial year to £92,000 and a balance of £8,000 for remaining projects for the rest of this financial year.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions from my colleagues? Yep.
Okay, so just very briefly, what happens is since LACS came into being, we've held 2 consultation events. So when we first started, and then the last one was around about 18 months ago. So we've done face-to-face consultation, online consultation, and from that we look at what themes are important to people in the South East. So the last time we did a consultation, which was 18 months ago, the 4 key themes that came out was crime and community safety, environmental, health and wellbeing, and children and families. So what the local area committee did was the money, so the £100,000 that each local area committee is allocated, that was broken down and weighted in accordance with the importance of each of the themes. So the top theme for the South East was around crime and community safety. So £50,000, the local area committee decided that £50,000 would be allocated to that theme. It was £17,000 for environmental, and then £15,000 respectively for health and wellbeing and children and families. And then what we do subsequently with the public meetings is we work with local communities, local community groups, and feedback from the meetings to look at what projects the local communities would like to see to be delivered in their area, which address those themes. So that's how we look at it, and that's how the projects are decided and delivered.
Last meeting, and I was intrigued to see that there were 3 meetings to which £3,000 are allocated. So, assuming that's £1,000 per meeting, why does it cost £1,000 per meeting?
The £3,000 I think you're referring to is the administration costs. So to fund, whether it's for the hire of the webcasting equipment, for hiring of the hall, for anything else that we're required, we allocate up to £3,000. So it has to come out of that £100,000. I don't get a separate budget for that. It's all in one. No, it doesn't. This one, I think for the actual building, I think it was around about £180. Then we'll get charged at the end of the financial year for the use of the webcasting equipment, any refreshments that we provide. It just depends. It can vary from around about £450. Depends where we have the venue and what's provided. Sorry? Yes, it does. It does belong to the council, but then we have to pay. Unfortunately, it's a charge service, and we have to pay for the hire of it. I agree.
Any other questions?
Yeah, could I just ask the councillors, how many councillors are there in here tonight? 1, 2, 3. Can you count for me, mate? I'm not very good at counting. So obviously all you councillors will know the Nolan principles then. So if we go around the room then and ask the councillors to cover 1 Nolan principle each to show us that you know how to obviously act in public office, that'd be quite interesting to see that you do know them principles. Because over the last few weeks, we've seen clear breaches of the Nolan principles throughout a few meetings. And obviously that's not really acceptable or what we want as members of the public from our councillors. And people can sit in this room and shake their heads and moan and groan, but you are all accountable to the public within Sheffield. And all we want is good standards. That's all we're saying. So the Nolan principles are really important. And the last Nolan principle is leadership. And that says that everybody within that role should be pulling up other people what aren't conducting themselves in public office to the right levels. So that's my question, and I hope that somebody can respond professionally to that without any rolls of the eyes or dragging of the heels or size and so on. Thank you.
As I said, when I left school, I went in the Royal Air Force, so I am guided by the principles that were hammered into me about public service in the Royal Air Force, and that guides me and will continue to do so. I'm open about what I do. I sit here in front of everybody. I speak in public meetings. I try my level best to deal with everybody's complaints, and I succeed or I fail sometimes. And I put my views forward clearly and I think fairly, and I try to work with people of different views. I mean, this LAC is made of people from different political parties, and that's the basis on which I operate, and I will continue to do so. As I said, I was brought up on an ethos of public service. In fact, I also have an oath of allegiance to the Sovereign, because I gave one when I joined the Royal Air Force. That applies not only to the existing Sovereign at the time, but the phrase is to her heirs and successors, so I have a duty to the Crown as well, and I will continue to do that throughout my public service. So that's my answer to your question.
Okay, Chair, that's you yourself. Yeah, what about the other councillors? So you'll have been operating under sea drills then, Chair, yeah? In the military, sea drills. Sea drills aren't exactly the same though as the Nolan Principles.
Yep, Carl.
Can I just come in on this? I think obviously we've reached the end of the meeting here, and I think if anybody's got specific concerns around the conduct of any of the council, how they behave, I think this isn't the right forum to discuss that, so I'd ask that we take it outside that meeting, outside this meeting, please.
Okay, another thing that's happened recently then is we attended a meeting, and the actual filming of that meeting was cut short. It was also speeded up, and certain portions of the dialogue, or the audio, was removed. That is not acceptable.
Can I just say, obviously, can we pick this up outside the meeting, please? Obviously, this is about the South East Local Area Committee. So if there's something around the governance, I think there are ways and means that we can pick this up outside the meeting. So I'll be to speak to you after this meeting's finished, and we can pick that up from there. Okay.
Yeah, no worries, sir. I mean, I've obviously seen you on quite a lot of meetings over the last year. So, yeah, okay, we can take it outside, but obviously that is not then filmed and recorded.
Okay, well, now I take your point, but obviously you have the right to put in a public question through that route, so obviously we can deal with it that way.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. And thank you all for your attendance, and we look forward to seeing you again. And please, feedback, the details are on here. Feedback any comments you have about the format of the meeting, how you'd like to see it improved, whether you thought it worked, and we will respond to that.